this computer. Okay, so I'm welcoming Michael Saup, a very long-term media artist, always being a pioneer of the most interesting, complex media art projects since many years, whom I know also many years because he was also our friend, but also collaborating on the project like Mediascape and Glowing Globe in Rijeka, Mediascape in Zagreb and in Strictly Berlin and so on. So I know his rich work, and as you could see on his links that I have sent you, you can really search and look for all this project that he had in his very complex and good websites. But always is the best to have it in live. And I'm giving now a word first Tomislav Branovic, who is going to be our mentor, moderator, because Tomislav also know very good Michael, and I think he can put more philosophical questions later. And please, Tomislav, can you please introduce from your side?
Yes, thank you, Inge, and thank you, Michael, for coming in this course. And it's really a privilege, I think, to have you here, because, as I said before, you are the right person to give us, I would say, answers actually to this situation, because I think it's time for answers today and not anymore for questions. And you asked before, what we mean under emergency exit. And I have this short text that kind of explains this project, because there was an open call on the university to react on this COVID-19 crisis. So our reaction was this course, and then we kind of put together a few sentences that are not the complete actually story behind it, but it gives a clue, what we are expected or hoping to achieve with this course. So the COVID-19 crisis has accelerated and accentuated many processes related to the focus of social events, including education and the arts, has shifted sharply and abruptly into the digital space. In this course, the crisis is viewed as a state of emergency from which we are trying to find a way out. But the way out is not contained within a single specific discipline. Rather, it's comprehensive, interdisciplinary. The aim of the course is to raise awareness of the ongoing processes, explore potential collaborations among artistic and scientific fields, analyze the phenomena of algorithms, as well as the phenomena of placement and dissemination of disinformation, the crisis of authority, and the associated crisis of perception, meaning and subjectivity, objectivity, relationships, and to examine the development of algorithmic populism based on the statistics of large numbers, and finally, examine how all the above mentioned processes affect art making, art education, and art presentation. So this is kind of very, very broad explanation of what we expected. And yesterday I had this short introduction to some other students that are not present here, but maybe some will join. And looking at your work in past, I always saw it as kind of anticipation of events and really reacting, because one of the works I showed yesterday was the oracle of the nuclear plexus, radioactive gaga, where you are talking about this noise we are broadcasting to the universe. So this sculpture becomes noise in 2008. Then a few other works with pyramids, this sugar mountain, the coal pyramid mountain, where you translated this energy used to run internet in 2012. You kind of made a coal pyramid just to make kind of illustration of the quantity of energy involved to support it. And then there is the other work, Failing Forest. And I jumped on your website and I found that you already did works related to COVID, Sun, Planets, Moon, Dimex and Earth and COVID-19, and then some other works COVID-19 evolution. They are without sound. It's only image. Only video. If I understood it well. So you already reacted to this situation, and our question is, how do you see it now? So where we are headed to? What's your reaction? What are your works? You know, and how do you see this development and exit?
Danke. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be in this nice round here of people. Yeah, let me put it like this. Why don't I take you on a journey? And I have prepared a video, and so we discuss the things on the way, because they're actually, I'm very open for inspiration at this point, because there's three major lines I've been hunting in the past, which is energy, Geld or money, and radiation. And why I do this, I want to answer, because that leads to one very specific thing, and it's coming, I feel it's coming really close now. And let's see what that is. So I will share my video, and please, if I say something wrong, please feel free to correct me anytime, you know, or if you think, okay. I would like to call. Do you see the screen?
Yes, we see it.
I see you now here too. Okay. Okay. Like most stories, this one or journeys, this one starts with a catastrophe. We are on board of a ship in the late around 1400, beginning of the 1500s. And on board, we carry something that is the first software and hardware. Something precious, something from the old world to reach out for new world. It is actually gold, a Spanish gold with a cross on it. And why I think that is related to hard and software, I will tell you in a minute. Anyone know what this is? This is actually the first money to be found, and it's Chinese. Until now, we thought that money originates from Greece at about 2,000 years ago, but this is older. This is 2,600 years ago, and this type of tool, it looks like a tool actually. You could also probably use it as a weapon. This has been recently found. It may change the whole story of mankind in relation to excavation point, all very recent. It's in Guansang, an ancient city in China's eastern Henan province. And it is believed to be the oldest known coin minting. And it's from 2,600 years ago. Making coins was one of the most revolutionary financial innovations in human history, said Saup. Well, that's one of the excavators, noting that wealth was easier to trade, count, and hoard after the invention of the minting process. That's funny because all these words are coming back to society now. So until recently, we believed that the coins are actually originating from Greece. And what about the human? The human actually is sacrificing other humans. And to not do that anymore, he's starting to sacrifice actually animals. And even more abstract, he takes a piece of gold and puts the animal as an image on the gold and sacrifices this. The interesting point here is the German word for finance and money, it's Geld. It doesn't actually come from gold, like yellow, because it comes from Gilt. that's the same as English guilt. I mean, like, and we say in German actually, Schulden. If you are collecting, you owe money, you are guilt. And it's also, we say Vergeltung, that means to revenge something. But the word Moneta is actually the same. It means warning, actually, Mahnung in Deutsch. So the money at this time is also the moment, because priests are doing this. This is all taking place with priests. So the point here is, interestingly, that now slowly this gets abstract. Now, besides the animals, there also come abstract forms here. And so slowly, the priests are doing this, and the temples are the first banks, if you want to say, or abstract, and then more and more people print their heads. So if you're really somebody, you should have your portrait on a coin, on a public coin. They're all doing this, and now something weird starts happening. It's getting more and more abstract, like with the crosses here. And that's actually the Teutonics, the Germans actually started this, and it was, at the time, it was criticized as being brutalist. Why, if you could have the portrait of a person on it, why would you start to use abstract forms on the money? And it's a cross, okay, you know, it's a religious symbol, but it's also something else. It shows how to divide the coin, but I come back to that later. So in that time, it's the reality that creates information. And now we're heading to the new world. The second thing that is important in this development is actually the digital. Where does it come from? What does it mean? It actually means with a finger, like digitus, Latin. It's actually from about the year 1650. It goes back to the binary system. I'm sure you know all this, and I don't want to talk too long about it. But so every number can be represented by a 1 or a 0. That was actually discovered a long time ago, 300 before Christ. Pingala, he had a binary system of 2 digits, but it didn't have a 0. And also, a very first hardened software is the Yi Ging. This is actually you have, why do I say hardened software? You have the hardware, which is sticks or coins, actually, free coins, and you have the software, the book explaining what it means and the system to arrange it. So we're heading, that's the I Ching. It's 64, which is a power of 2. This is the I Ching, and this belonged actually to Gottfried Leibniz. Gottfried Leibniz was a German lawyer. He was a German mathematician. It was actually a humanist, and also he did work for charity. And he wrote a book. And this book, which book was found when Johann Sebastian Bach died in his bed? It was not the Bible. It was a book by Gottfried Leibniz. It was called De Arte Combinatoria. Dissertatio de Arte Combinatoria. He wrote it when he was like 20 years old in 1666. I mean, at that time, one has to understand that Gottfried Leibniz actually learned to talk in Latin, being by himself, being 6 years old. That's quite remarkable, I believe. And since then, he never stopped creating new things to the world. So he invented mathematics also. So let's, for instance, the number pi only revealed a structure to one person, and that was him. The number pi is assumed to be a normal number. That means in all infinity, it will never repeat itself. It has no structure. That's complete infinite without a pattern. And that would mean that every information at one point appears into this number. So I'm sure you know these websites where you can look for your birthday in the number pi. It comes at a certain point. Actually, everything is going to come up in the number pi. The Bible, even each misspelled printing of the Bible, each misspelled printing in each language, etc. Actually, this whole creation here, this whole world is going to show up in this number. And it revealed, that's Gottfried Leibniz, and it revealed a structure to him. And then he invented, he said he discovered the binary system. You see it here. It nihil praeter unum in omnibus, unum autem necessarium. It means all, nothing but all in one, or nothing but all, but one in all. And the one is necessary. The binary system, when he discovered it, he said he discovered it, he didn't invent it, because he was very influenced by the Chinese, actually. And you see here, it's more of like a cosmology at the time. It's part of the universe. And the great revelation here is the Trinity. It has like 3 ones here, because the number 7, which in Christianity is holy, can actually be written as a 111. And he thought that was very special. So you see here, he was the last universal genius, as they said, the last one to know everything, or to able to work with anything that his time would offer. So now it's printed on a coin, and it has a meaning. It's the foundation, actually, of what is about to come after. So in Arte Combinatoria, actually, he said, all reasoning, all knowledge of the world should be collected in a database that is based on colors, codes, numbers, letters, and words. And assuming that he also discovered the binary system and had this vision of creating a database, something like the internet, I think he was very important for the development that leads up to this day. See, everything is about creation, the universal, that's some of his notes. They appear now, more and more information of him is reappearing, because he was actually forgotten. He died in the city of Hanover, Germany, being completely forgotten. And that means when Hanover, actually, like many other cities, you know, actually, like Caroline of Monaco, she's actually from Hanover now, because she married one of these royal guys there. But Gottfried Leibniz was actually with these royals, or they gave him money at the time, but they forgot him because everybody gets boring at one point. So when Hanover actually wanted to have a special person in their past, they didn't know who to look for, and they said there was something, wasn't it, that like Gottfried Leibniz? Yes, they found him again, and that's why Balsen, which is in Hanover, they make like cookies. They call them Leibniz cookies, but that's the only thing that Leibniz is as a cookie known now. So even if you're a genius like this, you may be forgotten. So the binary system which he discovered is nothing strange from us. It actually, meiosis, the division of the cells, goes exactly like this: 1, 2, 4, 8. So in the very beginning of life, it's very, very binary how it spreads out. So, okay, why do I stress this? Because the digital everything has a lot of meaning at that time of discovery. It's a universal, it's a cosmology, it's about God, it's about zero and nothing. And now, 333 years later, I want to show you a work which is called R111.
R111.
I'm going to take the sound off. This is about the internet. Now, 333 years after Mr. Leibniz, we have arrived with the internet. And the assumption is here, let me just show that again, that every time you send 200 megabytes of data over the internet, I mean, that's an assumption from the year 1999, then 200 grams of coal is burned. So futurists at that time has been promising us information highways. and fiber optic cables. But we're going to get that, yes. But on the also we're going to get very heavy power lines. So R111 was about this discovery and wants to show actually how the information on the internet is actually very powerful in the way that, let's put it this way. At that time, a lot of people, and like 1995 or 2000, were thinking about the binary, that it would be like a tool, like I use it like a paintbrush, I use it like a tool. But I think that's naive. It was naive at the time because already then it was a medium, and a medium actually it manipulates you. It's more powerful than you are. You have to actually slave to the medium to be part of it. So we wanted to show this, how do you say, this circulation. So the internet is actually storing information, and that we synthesize back to the real world, blah, blah, blah. So the IP space, actually like 192.168.1.1, is actually a four-dimensional space. It has 4 dimensions, and the energy is flowing into these 4 dimensions. And it's actually behind it is this very heavy fire that is creating the energy for the internet. So you can touch the internet by walking on this virtual water, and it actually means that everybody now can walk on water. This is the difference by 2000 years ago. Now everybody actually has elevated to a status of walking over the waters. And the prediction here is that the end, it's actually shown in Tokyo, and it's called R111, which is related, but it means also a radiation level of 111 Röntgen in Tokyo. That means that the end, the result of what's going on here, this circulation is radiation to 1 in a blue light. And you know, radiation is actually blue in many of its form, and why that is, I will tell you later.
Participate and feel how energies are generated and transformed as different phenomena, ranging from the virtual worlds to actual transformations of material, influencing each other. The energies of the material world that we maintain and realize as such are transferred into the information space and networks on which today's information society is centered. In this world where every existing fact can be information processed, how can we sense the energies, such as intellectual, mental, and economic power, loaded into information?
So the research goes on by Mr. Leibniz. He started to build a machine. He wanted to actually build the first calculation machine computer, and if you compare it to now, he spent about 1 million euros of private money into this construction of a machine that would be able to perform calculus. So what does bit actually means? It's actually said, and one of the explanation, and probably the true explanation, it's that it's a binary digit, the smallest unit of information. They say it's from 1947, shortly after the war, by the statistica, by the mathematician John Takei. And also Takei coined the term software later on. And the basic unit of information is a byte. I'm sure you know all this. A byte is 8 bits. But why? It has the reasons. So you can store an alphabet inside in this space of information. But interestingly, I found out there's a saying in California. California is very close to Mexico, and in California they say to a quarter, which is a quarter of a dollar, they say to a quarter 2 bits. That means 1 bit is the 8th. And what you see is that the coin, the cross, which is a religious connotation, also shows how the money can be divided, because obviously 1 piece of gold is too much worth to buy 1 bread or something. But it also means that in the concept of this money, the distribution is part of it. And we didn't even come close to the state of money where it's redistributed, like almost like in a Marxist sense or something. But I think it's inherent into the story. So you have the coin, the hardware, and the software is written onto it the way it's distributed and actually divided. And it's going to be divided in eight pieces. So we have a very, that's another moment of R101. We have a very interesting thing now, a melange of a hardware, of finance, of very powerful material, and a binary system. Now the year 1895-96 is also very precious, because now Mr. Röntgen discovers Röntgenstrahlung, X-rays actually. And this is again the hand, the finger. It shows, it's the first radiography. It shows actually the ring of his wife on her hand. The first ever X-ray taken of a human on December 22, 1895 was the left hand of Anna Bertha Röntgen, the wife of Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen, who accidentally discovered a form of radiation that would change the face of medicine. Accidentally interesting here. That's them. So the invisible actually comes into the world where it's slowly getting industrialized through Röntgen's radiation. But at the same time, in 1896, also the Dow Jones Industrial Average gets born. This is the financial index of the American stock market. I'm sure you know it. It's the oldest stock market in the world. So it starts 1896 and goes lately tremendously high. So it actually shows how we accumulate this guilt, or over the time. And obviously, where does it come from? It has a lot of it comes from extracting matter from the environment. So the same here, I lost it. Mr. Becquerel, Henri Becquerel, also 1896, strange year, accidentally discovers radioactivity. So he would be making at the time experiments with photography. And you had these photographic plates, and he put actually uranium salt, which he had for whatever reason, I don't know, and put it onto that plate, but just on his table. And actually what you see here is also a Maltesian cross on the lower. At that time, they say those were very common to have in your house, a Maltesian cross. And he put that so the salt would stay on the photographic plate, but also maybe the cross again, like on the money. Maybe he was part of a society or something. I really don't know. So the first radiography of mankind and womankind actually shows a Maltesian cross. I find that to be here again. I find that to be bizarre. Now this is getting more and more. This cross shows up also all over, and now I go a bit back to a personal thing, because the village I'm born, which is really small, actually, there comes, is called Jungingen, and this is Konrad von Jungingen. He was actually the Grandmaster of the Teutonic Orders at the time, and now very close to what it was in the time of Second World War comes actually Albert Einstein comes to this village and comes to a city of Hechingen. Why Hechingen? I'm born in Hechingen, and around that area, when you're growing up, you think there's nothing there that interests you. Actually, it's terrible because people are very conservative. Everything is suppressive, and but researching the past is very interesting. You have all these movements through in the Middle Ages through that area. For instance, there is a very cold winter in north of Europe. So the Swedish army actually comes through whole Europe just to have food or something. Another thing is they're raiding all themselves. These castles were all burned. And actually, the castle here is actually Burg Hohenzollern. That's actually where the rulers of Berlin actually used to live, the Wilhelms. And this is also, you can see this in the movie Barry Lyndon by Kubrick. This actually whole clip here is actually from a film with Leibach I made called Vor Sonnenaufgang. But the point I want to say is, now we have the year 1945 and Berlin gets bombed. So the German uranium project, who wants to build an atomic bomb, moves away from Berlin to Hechingen, actually, to continue their studies. And you have Werner Heisenberg, you have Otto Hahn, who discovered actually the nuclear fission. You have them all working there on, let's call it, Hitler's atomic bomb. But in fact, it is believed that they were not very keen to give a bomb to Hitler. So, and the circumstances of their work were very complicated. That means it was cold in the winter. We are in a cave. This setup of the first German nuclear reactor is actually in a cave. The cave was originally for a railway pass-through, but it never got finished. So they come in the year 1943 and dig a hole, a pool actually, and in the pool they're going to fill heavy water, which is the most precious substance at the time, and they're going to hang these uranium cubes and going to go put them into the heavy water until there is going to be a chain reaction and the beginning of the nuclear age. They did not comprehend that the Americans at the time were much more advanced, because they had started the Manhattan Project to build the first atomic bomb. But what you see here, this is the reason they created the Manhattan Project, because Albert Einstein wrote a letter to President Roosevelt saying the Germans are up to something, they're going to build an atomic bomb. And now, interesting about this place here is it's in a cave, and the cave is in a rock. So on top of the rock, you see a church, and the name of the church is Trinity. The church, when I saw this, because I looked very much for this place, so I immediately understood that Jesus Christ on the cross again, he's directly, if you go below, directly hovering over the pool of the nuclear reactor there. We measured that out. That's interesting because Genesis 1:3 says the Spirit of God would be hovering over the water, but now we have the Son of God hovering there over the heavy water of the reactor. this is interesting because it's not being set up by a single person, because the church was built in the 16th century, then the railway tunnel was built in the 18th century, and then 1943 there come the reactor. So there is this whole setup is by irrational logic. And of course, the name of the church is Trinity, and the atomic bomb, actually, the first one ever to explode, was actually called Trinity in 1945. And the next explosion was in Hiroshima, you know that. So now we have the very powerful energy introduced to mankind, which leads us actually to the year 2008. When I sensed that the pressure of this nuclear would grow immensely, and I went to Chernobyl in 2008 to steal a radioactive tree, and I'm gonna play a little bit of this video.
Давай, сейчас выйдем. Блядь, не выйдем, стой. Стой. Блядь, стой. Обратно нахуй. Да там машина обратно, блядь.
Вперед. Хуй. Ты снимаешь на видео? Да, как бы снимаю.
Тихо. Блядь. Охренеть.
Falling forestry defines a sidewalk in Montreal's Courtier International Commercial District. The installation explores the implications of nuclear power and its relationship to natural ecosystems. Our understanding of this relationship is in constant evolution. Falling forest provides the setting for a deconstructed tree that is partially exhumed from the so-called red forest adjacent to the nuclear disaster at Chernobyl. This tree is suspended within the space and lit with red LED light. A Geiger counter mounted within the installation's floor measures radiation. These readings are played back through an audio speaker. The primary building material is wood, a product of the forest. An abstraction of a tree-lined boulevard is created using a combination of 2x8 plus 2x4 wooden studs, OSB panels and LED lighting. The installation sits on a sidewalk and does not require drilling into the granite pavers. Power for the LED lighting is drawn from the existing street lights.
Creation of the nuclear oracle. Process diary. Quantum Geist travels to the exclusion zone of the Chernobyl reactor in the Ukraine, former Russia. Quantum Geist meets the remains of the radioactive red forest. Quantum Geist cuts a radioactive tree and brings it to Canada. Quantum Geist meets the remains of the Canadian forest. Quantum Geist cuts a tree in Canada to amplify the Ukrainian wood. Quantum Geist exhibits the combined tree in Montreal. Quantum Geist creates the forgotten oracle of the red forest, the nuclear Trinity. Quantum Geist describes the smallest indivisible articulation of reality being the fabric of the absolute body. Quantum Geist adores the articulation of the supreme infossil archaeology of the nuclear plexus. Growing up in the Killertal, living very close to the botanical monoculture of the Black Forest in Germany, I had been irritated and fascinated by the myth of the red forest near the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. I heard that in 1986, after the reactor blew up, the forest around the reactor would be glowing red at night for 3 months. This story being true or not, as a matter of fact, the trees turn red after they died following the absorption of high levels of radiation from the disaster. The red forest was cut and buried, the first time that infossilization of carbon culture was in use. Today, all of us are saving the planet. The nuclear nightmare has completely disappeared. Really? As a matter of fact, I sense something different. The real manifestation of the nuclear age, the birth of the nuclear plexus introducing Hindu blue Big Bang recycling, Star ignition factories and infossil supersymmetry, creating local irregularities in the cosmic grid. Finding a tree of the red forest and bringing it to Montreal to be exhibited in public territory gives us the opportunity to ask shy questions to this forgotten interface between future and past, the nuclear oracle of the red forest. Light is very...
So actually interesting going that place. Once you enter it, it is an exclusion zone. It has machine guns, it has red and white barriers, it has soldiers and police. But if you've been inside, actually, you know that this is just a theatrical setup. Whatever is inside an exclusion zone is everywhere. This is just to keep people out. But if you go Chernobyl, if you just go 100 meters left, there's a hole actually in the fence, etc., etc. You know that, and it's very common these days to go to Chernobyl. But I don't want to ride on this because there's many more places now. So doing that, I had a very strong feeling that about something could be interesting, because we set it up in front of the stock market. So this is very close to the stock market in Montreal, Canada, as maybe 100 meters, as close as we would come. We didn't have allowance to do that. So, but because it's relatively big, the construction, and it had like a truck to set it up, nobody asked the question. So the question, let me put that down here. Now, if you have Einstein's formula, E equals mc squared, where E actually is energy, and we talk about energy, you have matter, materialism, money, moneta, guilt, and you actually have C, which is light, the speed of light into squared, but light is actually radiation. So this formula actually means, well, excuse my free interpretation, but if you use it, if you apply it, either it's on the stock market or on a nuclear bomb, or whenever you apply this formula, the result is going to be radiation or any one of these other results. So if you want to have energy as a result in the means of destruction, you're going to use a lot of money or matter and radiation, etc., etc. So, but radiation from the beginning in the form of light, which is the only constant in the universe, is actually the final outcome. So my thinking was, if we set up this nuclear tree, the radiation here, not the tree of life, but the tree of half-life, if we set that up in front of the stock market, would it affect one of these other ingredients of the cocktail? So when we dismantled it in the years 2008, actually the day after was the crash of the stock market. I thought that was interesting. It made a leap down of 777 points, which at the time was the biggest crash ever happened. I mean, we've since have seen bigger crashes like than this, but I thought it to be interesting, saying like, oh, I should investigate further on this. So which I did. So that's the crash, 770 points. So the next idea was to go to Vienna and put a piece of gold, again, the gold, put it in a nuclear reactor. Why? Because I waste the value of gold, I waste it in order to create nuclear waste. Because if the gold is going to be in the reactor, there's no way this gold ever can leave the place by law, because it now has to stay in nuclear confinement there. So with this way, wasting the value of gold, which everybody wants, and protect it from the circulation and from the extraction, further extraction and melting and iteration of value, then I would transform the nuclear reactor into a museum or a gallery. So every time you wanted to see the gold, yes, you'd have to go there. And the nuclear industry after Fukushima, this was shortly after Fukushima, actually they were very open because they wanted to be transparent. You know, they say, oh, we're all good. So, but they were very suspicious of me doing this. And actually, I didn't manage actually to put the gold into the reactor because before that happened, I was completely radiated. And I caused a nuclear incidence of one of these scales. And so this project couldn't be done, couldn't be finalized in Vienna. Actually, while filming these shots over the reactor, and you have to know that the reactor in Vienna is very close to the Prater, which is like the amusement area. While filming this, we had two options: either to open the f-stop in the camera, or secondly to fire up the reactor to the most. We did both. So at the time we get too much radiation. And actually that was the moment I found out that I'm actually immortal, because that was quite a heavy experience. And by any means, I do not want to be funny about the nuclear, because I know what it can do to people, and I know how long it can be inherited in a chain of the people following you. It's a terrifying idea. So I think I should slowly get to an end, because I think I'm over my time. But let me put this: the question I wanted to ask at the time was, and that's actually the image that's behind Ingeborg, is if I view one trailer on YouTube 1 million times, how much energy would it use? And the answer was at the time that everything that we're doing is actually consuming tremendous amount of energy. Let's say if by the film Avatar of I forgot the director's name, but you know, this Avatar film. If you view that trailer 1 million times, it's going to be a 3 meter cube of coal, assuming that you would create all the energy needed in the process from coal. You could say that is not so much. If you put it in front of the pyramids in Cairo, it looks nothing special, but the whole internet in 1 year would create a pyramid that is 900 meters high and 1,400 meters wide. And this was like 10 years ago. So there was not much with Bitcoin going on. There was not much with NFTs and other things like this going on. So, but the metrics of energy would be different ever since, because now you do not calculate anymore like how fast is your processor, blah blah blah, but now you have to calculate how much energy do you need per storing bits, because everything is stored. And in atomic structures like hard disk are storing in atoms. And if we send information over the internet, it's going to be electrons. So everything here has a price, and this wonderful, beautiful world of the digital, this is actually the limit. This is the limit of the programmer. This is the limit of the networks. The network. This is the limit of the social machines. This is actually energy. There is not an infinite amount of energy actually available on this planet. And now all what I wanted to show you is accumulating in this very special thing, which is called the Bitcoin, because now you have it again. You have the Maltesian cross. It shows up again, even though if it's virtual, it needs a counterpoint in the energy consumed. Like the formula is in complete operation, and it's actually in operation in the civil society, not in the military society. It's in operation in the civil world, not the military world. Now we have created this binary democracy, meaning it splits only into parties. We have binary democracy induced by social machinery. And also interestingly, reappearing is Gottfried Leibniz's formula for the universe, but then the sequence of the ones and zeros here is merely decorative. It doesn't mean anything anymore. So the question here is it worth, just to remind you, is it worth to go all this process? Is it worth, this is a step on redistributing the money to everything, to abolish it actually, etc., etc. Is this actually of this connected world we have seen very much with COVID, which this is an animation about that by the airplanes spreading it all over. It's on one time it's a very negative thing, but it also shows our cooperation, the level of worldwide cooperation we can actually achieve. And as Tomislav said in the beginning, where's the answer to all this? As a side effect, data doesn't merely use energy, but it also, the new metrics that has to be addressed is death by data. It's actually at about, since 2012, actually 2.5 million people have died a premature death because of the creation of data. This is actually a metric I find interesting and is new, but it's very simple to come by with. It actually, if you know how much energy the internet needs, of all of the whole energy, which is, let's say, let's be very conservative and say it's between 5% and maybe 10% of the whole, even having YouTube and all this. It's very well known how many people die by the creation of that energy, by the 100%. So you just take 5 to 10% of the whole deaths, premature deaths by the energy, and you know how much people die by data. So how do people die by data? I mean, if you create energy, it has side effects like particles in the air, especially in countries where there's not much filtering of air. And especially these particles sink down to where we're on children's level, because that's where most of the particles are actually collecting. And so you have this metric. So if this singularity many of us want to achieve, the digital singularity, the silicon narrative of the Uber universe, actually it has a price, a very big price, and I think now people are actually starting to believe that it has a price, which they never did. And now this word visualize called dust, because we have been born, we have been dust when we were born, but now actually when we die we're going to be data. That means we showed that first in the church. You've seen it, because that's the question of belief now. Do you believe the data? Who do you believe? Do you believe anything at all, or do you oppose any belief? And I think let's close in here. In this place where there's no more human, will there be place for a new start or not? Now you tell me. So what I tried on this journey that starts on the ship to the new world, I tried to show you these 3 lines of this formula I've been hunting like the last 20 years and investigating, because it's accumulating right now. And I am actually, just to give you an idea, I'm actually very interested to work on something. Recently, let me show you this. With FM Einheit, we made a concert in Chemnitz, and Chemnitz is a city in Germany which is very supposed to be right-wing and like this. And there is a statue, a big statue of Karl Marx actually outside. It would be interesting to create a machine out of this narrative also. If you have like the social machine that is the mark actually. Now you have another machine. If you take artificial intelligence and be so good in the prediction of the stock market that actually your prediction becomes the stock market, you would actually abolish the whole thing. And this is actually what I would like to work on for the next things. I think I know this is a very naive approach, and I cannot come up with this because you have the most, where in the world is the most mental energy, the most scientists. They don't work into climate research. They don't work even with NASA. They work actually in the stock market, which is sad by itself. But you've seen here the walls in the tree, the Wall Street actually has accumulated our finest minds. It has accumulated all the wealth. It would be interesting now to fulfill what money's been made for, is to redistribute itself, to actually to come out of the locked singularity, actually singular possession, and get redistributed. So I would keep it like this, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Michael, for this very, very interesting, I would say, lecture or presentation of your work. But I think it's more than work. It's really about very, very the core of the problem. So I might give first maybe to others, maybe to Anastasia or Gaia or Diana or Inge, the word to ask you some questions, because I think there should be questions after such a very interesting lecture. Maybe Anastasia, I don't know if she has something in mind. Anastasia, what's the good pronunciation? Anastasia or later?
Yeah, I'm sorry because I'm actually on a course of Arduino, but just a second.
Changing space.
I wanted to be everywhere at the same time, so sometimes it's hard to do that. So. Where to start? It's really interesting, really, everything that you said, and so the relation.
Anastasia?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because yeah, I was sharing my internet from my phone, which I left there. So actually, we'll go a little bit closer.
Where are you going? Where are you?
Okay. I'm in Kostrena, which is a city nearby Rijeka, and yeah, there was just like this course of programming and Arduino, and actually I was a few days ago, and today they were redoing the same thing because few people weren't a few days ago. So actually, to me, was just like a perfect moment then to concentrate on this. So also regarding everything that you said regarding new metrics of data and energy, and how actually particles do resonate as the person is born from dust and then it becomes a data. It also reminded me of actually one of the most shocking things that I researched in a few days ago, that actually the people resonate much more with information as seen as data and seen as also can be binary or just information as letters, writings from a technological source. So from cell phones or from computers that actually can resonate on a more closer wave, brainwave with the person. So actually through computers, through the internet, it can have a much stronger impact than actually something that is written with the letters or with...
I see.
Yeah, so that's also one of the connection that reminded me of that. So it might be also interesting to hear what you also think regarding stuff.
Interesting. Yeah. And the other thing is people believe that machines only recently started to communicate with each other over the internet. So by digital connection and etc. And that all hardware is actually stupid and empty. And even if it's connected, it's stupid, etc., etc. But the point is, so if the internet, it comes from the ARPANET maybe in the 60s or late 50s or slowly here, that's really not the long time. But as I said, the information in the net is by electrons. But machines have been connected by electricity much, much longer, which is exactly the same thing, actually. So there is one of the misunderstandings about this energy and actually patterns, frequencies, and structures, as you say, is flying through these machines and is actually radiating out of our monitors by 50 hertz or 60 hertz. This is and in a very blue manner, and like this blue light after out of the monitors is actually changing our circadian system, like the day-night clock. And even the clock is not anymore connected to the sun like it used to be. Like, okay, in the Pyrenees in France, you can see sculptures where at one point in the year there's going to be a shadow under that stone, and then you have to go down in the valley again. This is no more. The modern time is not related to the sun anymore. It is actually synchronized to atomic decay of cesium atoms. And this is all, as you say, all the noise in the internet, which may be just noise, entertainment, or temporary cultural expression, there is something powerful underlying, which is affecting all of us, to the good or to the bad. Please let me know. Tell me what you think. But I think we're close to an accumulation of this. I'm very confident about this, and let's see whether it is possible to create some positive visions out of this. And positive results.
Well, people will have to learn how to resonate with different frequencies. If we need to understand how actually there will be a new kind of humans that will be reacting to different topologies of frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
Might be.
Yeah, I would agree to that, actually.
I have one question. You are a very engaged artist, and you had always pick up the most recent problems in comparison with those that you already experienced before. And so, just your opinion. Do you have a feeling that it's really possible through artistic activities to bring really some kind of point where people should be thinking about and changing maybe their thoughts?
I would answer, I would say clear no. because I would join in the chorus with Andrei Tarkovsky, the Russian filmmaker. He said, after 4,000 years of culture, if we believe that art would be to the merit, to the good of people, by now, after 4,000 years, we would all be angels. And I see what he's meaning. My personal experience is, okay, I don't merely consider myself to be an artist. I have some other things to do also, but the art part of it, as long as it's related to entertaining rich people or entertaining whatever type of people, that's a special thing. And I'm actually happy that I was not able to participate too much into that. Just because at the time these works were mostly created, they were completely out of context. That means the timing for success is super bad. But I would first, the question then is, how do you define success of the artistic work? And that was very clearly shown to me after this tree from Chernobyl, because okay, we are in Montreal, and now comes the director of the German, the lady from the German Goethe Institute. She didn't help the work at all, but she came by because it was German. So when she came, she said like, this is related, a tree, this is related to the dying of the forest. And I said, no, not really. And I said, this tree, a part of the tree actually are from Chernobyl. And then she stepped 2 meters back. Then I said, oh, she shouldn't be so shocked about this, because I always carry a piece of the tree as a talisman in my pocket. I show it to her, and then she was 5 meters in the way. Then I knew very much like this. It's not about success, you know, in that you are part of this. As long as you manage to create an income and actually feed your kids and feed yourself, but the success would be something completely different. It would be, and to answer that, Ingeborg, it would be a success if there would all reactors would go, from my understanding. Even though I think part of the problem is actually now the EU, and this was smellable for 5 years, the EU is just declaring nuclear energy as a green energy that is sustainable. If you follow this narrative of the accidents that do not happen and etc. like this, and this is the problem, because none, to answer the question is, none ever will give up any of the privileges he or she has gained, like quality of life, quality of food, to mine my own money with Bitcoin, and I'm not jealous about this, and to mine my NFTs, and I understand for a young generation this may be the only and the last possibilities to become rich actually, and this may be the last thing ever in this regard. So, but I think I lost the point what I want to say.
What about the influence to art, to the you know, public?
I lost it on the way. I lost it. It was very close, but I lost it.
Anybody else?
It's about art who is not able to give any solution to the problem, and Tarkov.
That's true.
So that was the line.
That's true. That's the line. And also, if I manage to abolish all cars in the cities, you know, if I show everybody a virtual artwork about dust, okay, people start to realize it, but nobody's ever going to give up anything. This is my complete point. And now, to maintain it, you are going to need nuclear energy. That people will green talk themselves about it, and in the end, you will have a lot of very small reactors, new types. But as a scenario for cataclysm, this is very bad, because you're going to have a real distributed source. So whatever rocks come from outer space, whatever wave comes from the ocean, this will find something very bad. I'm really I'm not nervous about it, but I say like, this is a bit crazy, this development, and it has only to do, there's no solution into this. The only thing I ever saw as a solution was after Fukushima, we made what was called the Open Home Project. We invited people from Japan to come here. Very simple web page, one airplane and one house. If you click the airplane, you want to leave Japan, and if you have a house, I have a house for people who want to leave. So there came like 30 people to Berlin, and one of them was a Zen monk, an original Zen monk from Eiheishi, which was founded in the 1600s by Dogen, the Japanese Zen master. And getting friends with him, I made his morning routine, and they take 4 bowls and eat some rice, and then they put the tea in the rice and drink that. So what I want to say is, in the end, they have not eaten much at all. It's really not much, this little bit of rice. It's just enough so they can live. But once they've eaten, they have the same time cleaned the dishes and packed them for the next person without anything. I thought like, this is interesting. Now, this has been adopted as a culture. This is not a law or something. They have actually a tradition of saving things, and nobody is doing this. So it was at about also 20 years ago when the invention of LED lighting comes to the world. I realized it first when I was in Singapore, because I saw an orange color that I've never seen before. It was completely new. It was originated by LED lights at the time. And now if you use LED lights, you can actually save, you save 90% of the energy. That means you would actually come down to 10% of the energy just by making light. But the human is different. The human now uses 10 times more energy, light for more energy. So you always stay in the same level. This is actually happening. And actually there's proof of this. Just recent satellite photographies of, this radiation of light by the night actually shows 10 times more light than 20 years ago. So that means all energies that had been saved has been reinvested into brightness. And okay, whether that's good or bad, I don't know. Maybe streets are safer, or there's a good reason, or it's cozy, or there's two sides on everything like this. So so I'd say, to answer your question, I'd say as art, I think you shouldn't take yourself too serious that you can help this process. But on the other hand, without action or getting your hands dirty, there's going to be no outcome. I give you another example. The German government really miserably failed recently when they took people out of Afghanistan, and I say this because I've been to Afghanistan 2004 and I have friends there. So I'm in contact right now. And now comes a private organization of people from Germany, private, 5 people. They get the money together, and now they have evacuated 1,000 people. So just imagine, they get the money to rent an airplane, which is like 300,000 euros. They fly there, and they land there in Kabul, and the Americans are still around at the time, and all the Taliban already. They actually evacuated 1,000 people. I think this is some type of success. The government fails completely, as always, in all regards, in regards to Corona, to financial crisis, to traffic, blah, blah. Tell me, I think it is possible to create an impact. I see it, that people are doing it, but it's not going to be just by making people aware. And we as Europeans, we are not professional on making people aware, because the awareness industry is an American innovation, which mostly refinances itself, meaning like we're all raising money that we continue our work to make others aware of something, but that's the only outcome of it. And I say this because I've been in a lot of think tanks, American think tanks, the last 2 years, and I see that all of this is some type of entertainment, really. It's a Tesla in outer space. It's a new forest. It's a new 3 million trees somewhere. But I think it's the same old story, the same old song. It's like a entertainment, a rock and roll story of some type, of something that's, so I'd say no.
Yeah, but I must say you also worked with very much with other artists, and especially also with the musicians, and many years also with Leibach, which is in a way, it's not real entertainment because they are very progressive in their thinking, but I think music is something which maybe brings this emotional part when you connect to, for example, your videos as a part of the performances and all these actions that you have. It must be some kind of maybe subconscious bringing to more masses of people certain problematics, because putting your videos, as far as I know, in such events, it's also something that bring more maybe also younger or whatever public to have maybe subconsciously noticing something is happening.
I agree. Music is that what I'm going to do next, mostly just for personal entertainment and fun. I recently started again. I mean, I started off being a musician, probably you all don't know this, and I studied actually some music in the US, like guitar, but you cannot do all the things all at the same time. So I reserved that for the days when I'm old, and I think that's starting now. So now I'm going to go back to music, actually. And I think you are right. This is very much pleasing. It's the unexplainable is still encoded into music. It's not analytic. It doesn't need a text or an analysis. It is actually very close to the flow out of time, but still encoded into time. It's fantastic. I think music is the most carrying emotions, which actually can address new worlds, other worlds, parallel worlds. I think that's the energy that music represents. Yes, and yeah.
Maybe you're a little bit tired of high tech. I don't believe it. I think you will always be connected to high tech.
I have a question, if it's possible, so you don't go too far. Then it's gonna be too late for it. I see a very strong analogy with the Christian notions in all your works you're doing. So Trinity, Christ hovering over the water, this church over the cave, Bitcoin with Maltese cross. So I'm very into this question. Do you think that this Christian meaning is in the core of the whole problem, and in which sense do you connect with these symbols? Because let's say my position is that Trinity is not Christian. That, let's say, there shouldn't be a church on a hill. There shouldn't be a Christ on a cross because he's resurrected. So I think that the whole imagery, if it's present, it's the opposite of Christianity. So it's the expression of the opposite. So that's my question. How do you see it?
I see it the same. It's the opposite. So these energies, they need a form, can you re-ask your first part of your question? What was the first question you asked?
It's about this an analogy with the, let's say, the tree, nuclear tree. It refers to the tree of life or the tree of knowledge. So it's connected. Are we ending? So is this nuclear tree, let's say, the expression of human rebellion? Yeah, this type of question. Yes,
I agree. It has a very religious and a Catholic or a Christian annotation, but now the interesting answer would the Zen monk give to you, the Japanese. They actually see the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki as a continuation of the crusades that started a long time ago. So this has never stopped, and wherever that comes from. Now, I do not want to delve into a conspiracy and say there is up there these assholes or down there the shit, I don't believe into this type of claiming others to be responsible for something that's happening, but this may be very, very old principles. It actually starts in Greek temples, but it actually goes older than this. And now the new development says it's from China, even older, and most things come from China. And I think you could say, is there something hardwired in the human somehow by genetics or by behavior or by culture or cultural expression that builds this way through time? And time has not always been so temporary like now. Like this film by Werner Herzog in the caves of the Les Trois Frères. There's these paintings of the animals, and they've been painted in the over 5,000 years. So one drawing is 5,000 years in the creation process. So what does that mean? Who's continuing? How do you communicate from the last one painting to the first one, or what is the flow of information there? I'm saying like this starts somewhere very back, maybe even in an atomic process. You know, this all could be an expression, but it shows patterns, and I like these patterns. I wouldn't necessarily call them Christian also. I see they've been talked about in this context, and I'm in no way gonna go and do deity service in a church. And I think all this gold is there again in the church, all this glamour, all these weird things. And now even take the church that is on top of the rock. The Americans now come in 1945. It's the most secret and mission of World War II is for the Americans to find the nuclear German scientists and some more, like Werner von Braun, to build the missiles and rockets and Apollos. Okay, they come there, he look at it, and he wants to explode the church. So the rubble of the church goes from the rock and encloses the cave, though nobody ever will be able to go to the cave again. But so the priest takes him to the church, and Mr. Patton, that's his name, the American officer, he said that's the most beautiful church he has ever seen in his whole life, and he's not gonna explode it. And so you see, these stories even much more continue, and there's more analogies. Like, so when the Americans come, the German scientists at the time, they take the uranium cubes and want to save them. They don't want the Americans to have them or to find them. What do? They go to the potato field behind, on top of the acre, and dig holes and plant them in the potato field. They plant the seed, which they actually did. They discovered nuclear fission. Werner Heisenberg, he discovered this Unschärfe, I don't know the English word, you know, this quantum theory, I don't know what, I forgot the English word, the Unschärfe relation, saying, so they do this, they plant nuclear uranium in a potato field. Now 1 week later, the Americans come and they find it, of course, and they take it out, they ripe it. After 1 week, it's ready, it's been grown. They take it, it's so heavy, they cannot, they have to make a human chain. So one hand to the other, to the truck, to get, because uranium is very heavy. I don't know if you ever had a uranium cube in your head, that's remarkably heavy. And so there is the chain reaction that never happened in that place. But the Americans have it, and they actually melt it also for the Japanese bombs, this uranium, much later. Or no, actually for the bombs that are bombing these atolls in, you know, these beautiful islands there. So what I'm saying, that these connotations, these patterns, they are in Christianity, but they are also in other type of patterns, whatever filter of patterns you want to take on. But I think it is interesting to see patterns, which raises only one question, which is there any freedom involved if there's patterns? Is there any freedom for the person, for the individual in such a system that actually is perfectly created out of probability and frequency. Yes.
Okay, I think we should slowly go to our end. Maybe it's also for you already a little bit tiring to talk so much. Is there any last question of one of you? I see Marco Mervos also joined us last second. Didn't hear enough, or Gaia, or Diana. Or maybe, as I said on the beginning, Michael, and the last time to Mechthild and Joanna, I think it would be great that we plan on the end of our courses one meeting with all together and gain some experiences and give some maybe conclusions to our search in our project. We will never give answers, that's for sure, but maybe through a variety of discussions, maybe we could come to the mutual thinking of how to go on with our artworks in communication with the possibilities that we have today, whether it's communication possibilities like this Zoom meeting with all over the world people, or developing certain projects using certain techniques to be able to give some different problematics. So thank you very much, Michael, and all of you, and we are looking forward to meet you again in maybe 2 months.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of love to you. Beautiful to see you all.
Yeah, and
I enjoyed it a lot.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
You stay in peace.
Yeah, okay.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.